Well, this was also a major political defeat for Donald Trump, and he's heading toward catastrophe. And that's why Donald Trump is trying to sell a different deal. There actually is no deal, but a different MOU to his base and to the American public than the one that Iran understands was agreed upon. Today, Donald Trump is declaring that there will be IAEA inspectors heading to Iran to inspect the nuclear sites. And that's something that Iran has rejected so far. And why would they accept that, given the assassinations of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, the Oppenheimer of Iran, on down to lesser known quantum physicists and scientists who were assassinated during the 12-day war and afterwards? How did Israel get these names and put them in its target bank? Well, we know Israel hacked into the private accounts of Rafael Grossi, the general secretary of the IAEA, and it got these names through previous inspections that Iran had to hand over the names of scientists. So it doesn't seem like Donald Trump is putting forward the actual MOU to his own base that he has to sign because the U.S. was dealt the worst, I think, strategic defeat possibly in its history, military defeat. In many ways, a worse defeat than Vietnam because the economic damage has not been contained and won't be contained even if the conflict ends right now. The situation going through the summer looks bleak, and I'm being told by people who are, investors, that oil is a really good bet right now because the prices will not stay down. So Donald Trump has to do this, and at the same in some ways he has won back. He's won back some of the support of his base. He's put J.D. Vance out as the salesman for the MOU. Vance was always sold to the public as one of the restrainers on Iran. He wasn't able to obviously do anything when Benjamin Netanyahu came to town and told Donald Trump, basically gave Donald Trump his marching orders in February. But now J.D. Vance is kind of having a little bit of a comeback. He's earning a little bit of his credibility back. Marco Rubio is nowhere to be seen. Donald Trump is backing up J.D. Vance publicly. But and Donald Trump is facing a rift within the Republican Party elite. The kind of George W. Bush neocon-oriented Republicans are up in arms about the MOU. The Israel First Republicans like Ted Cruz, Roger Wicker on the Foreign Relations Committee, they're obviously up in arms. And then you have like the Zionist movement that supported Trump attacking him, including in Miriam Adelson's paper in Israel Hayom, the pro-Netanyahu propaganda sheet, which we can talk about next, is now going after Donald Trump. Donald Trump's unpopular in Israel suddenly. They're just so entitled that they would turn on him in a second. But I think one of the most cynical, insidious elements in American politics that is now attempting to turn the screws on Trump for signing this MOU and doing so in Versailles, the symbolism of signing basically a declaration of surrender in Versailles, are the Democrats. And the Democrats are doing so because the MOU is actually unpopular among the American public, not because they don't want peace with Iran. It's because they don't want Donald Trump to sign it, because Donald Trump is unpopular. Donald Trump is a widely hated figure, so anything associated with Trump is doomed to fail. This is like I think it's a CNN poll, 64% of Americans don't like the MOU. That's almost the same number of Americans that didn't like the Iran war. So why wouldn't they want there to be peace? Why wouldn't they want there to be an MOU? Because it's Trump doing it. Everything in the news right now is not even like the top story in the US, if you watch cable news, is not the MOU. It's not the dynamics of the deal or whether Iran will actually give up its nuclear dust or submit to inspectors. It's about the reflecting pool on the National Mall and the fact that a former Olympian was arrested for dipping his hand into the reflecting pool because Trump has just overseen this absurd Mar-a-Lago-style renovation of the reflecting pool that costs like $30 million. He gave the contract and a no-bid contract to a crony, and now the pool is filled with algae blooms. It's turned green. The blue sealant has cracked off, and National Guard are guarding the reflecting pool. And anyone who approaches can be arrested. And Trump is blaming vandals for the failure of this glitzy renovation project. And that's what everyone is focused on right now. Just it's become sort of a microcosm or a conduit for all of the public's contempt of Donald Trump. And that's flowing into opposition to the MOU simply because Trump is doing it. And that's a real problem. And then just, this is behind all of this, the political spectacle are figures like Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, all of these pro-Israel operatives whose careers have been fueled and instrumentalized by the Israel lobby or are just simply adherents of the Zionist movement. Jared Kushner actually brought Nick Stewart from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, which is the main Israeli cutout that devised this war in Washington. He brought him to Switzerland for the negotiations. So these figures are still honeycombed throughout the Trump administration and are poised to unravel any MOU or prevent a deal. But I think what they're doing right now is just buying time, and they see this as a form of strategic sequencing. So there are many factors working against the success of the MOU, even though the American public is just solidly against going back to war.